Welcome to another episode of The Dissection, a breaking news episode of The Dissection. The Western Cape High Court has issued an order on the issue of the VAT matter in the case between the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the Minister of Finance, and the Speaker of the National Assembly. And what you need to know, the breaking news, is that the Minister of Finance has resoundingly lost Part A of the application. He has lost. It's a massive blow for the ANC, massive blow for the president, massive blow for the Minister of Finance, and may actually be a career-limiting decision in that he may actually lose his job for going down this path with such aggression, putting his name on the VAT increase, and now he may have to fall on his sword. I recorded this episode as fast as I could, guys. I did it as fast as I could. The court order was issued today at 5:38 p.m. And the story was broken first by Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. And I must say, the man is doing big things. Live events, he's doing a lot of things. And we have to give props to the SMWX channel for covering the court hearing between the DA, the EFF, and the Minister of Finance and providing that live coverage in 4K. High quality content. They did that. They were one of the few platforms who did that. And I think in so doing, they provided a massive public service to South Africa. And I think it was one of the most watched live streams in terms of court hearings that are happening outside of the murder cases and those kind of cases. Quality was amazing. Contribution was amazing. So the story is breaking. Well done, SMWX, for all the work that you've done. Here's what the order says, the court order. It says the following: issued at 5:38 today, Sunday the 27th, on Freedom Day, freedom from VAT Day, from a VAT increase. This is what the order says. It says, the Minister of Finance's announcement on the 12th of March made under Section 7.4 of the Value Added Tax Act 89 of 1991, whereby the value added tax rate was adjusted as follows. The first 0.5 percentage point increase in the VAT rate will take effect on the 1st of May 2025, and the second 0.5 percentage point increase will take effect on the 1st of April 2026. Is suspended, pending the passing of legislation regulating the VAT rate or the final determination of Part B, whichever occurs first. The resolutions of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces adopted on the 2nd of April 2025 to accept the report of the Standing Committee of Finance and the Select Committee on Finance on the 2025 fiscal framework are set aside. They are set aside. The resolutions are set aside. The Minister of Finance shall pay 50% of the cost of the Democratic Alliance on a scale C, as such cost to include the cost of two counsel. The Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces shall pay 50% of the costs of the Democratic Alliance jointly and severally on a scale C, such cost to include the cost of two counsel. The Finance Minister shall pay 50% of the costs of the Economic Freedom Fighters on a scale C, such cost to include the costs of two counsel. The Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces shall pay 50% of the costs of the Economic Freedom Fighters jointly and severally on a scale C, such costs to include the costs of two counsel. There you have it. That's the breaking news. And yeah, it's not looking good for the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Minister of Finance. It's not looking good for the ANC. It's not looking good for the government. Let's talk about this cost order issue a little bit quickly. The cost order is worth talking about. You will hear commentators talking about costs to give you an indication of the view that the judges or judge had on the merits or demerits of the litigation. A cost order in South African law is a judgment made by a court regarding who must pay the legal costs incurred during litigation. The primary purpose of a cost order is to indemnify a party for expenses that they should not have had to incur, typically because they were compelled to initiate or defend litigation unnecessarily. So these orders are determined at the discretion of the court. The awarding of court costs is at the discretion of the court, which is guided by considerations of fairness, considerations of reasonableness, and the general rule is that the successful party is entitled to costs, but the court may deviate from this based on the circumstances of the case. In South African litigation, the allocation of costs is governed by a set of fundamental principles outlined in both statutory provisions and common law precedents. According to Section 80 and Rule 33 of the Magistrate Courts Act, costs in magistrate courts are regulated, while High Court applies common law principles to cost allocation. Right. So there are different types of cost orders, right? The first one is known as ordinary costs, party and party costs, rather, right? This is the most common type of cost order. It allows the successful party to recover reasonable legal expenses from the losing party, but only for work that was necessary for the progression of the matter as provided for in the court's tariffs. These costs are assessed by a taxing master and generally do not cover all the expenses incurred by the successful party, only those deemed necessary and reasonable. So that's level one, ordinary costs. Then you have attorney and client costs. This order is less common and is awarded in cases where the court wishes to penalize a party for misconduct or bad faith. It allows the successful party to recover a broader range of legal costs, including expenses not ordinarily recoverable under a party and party order. This is intended as a punitive measure against the losing party, and it's given in some situations where the opposing party is viewed to have acted in bad faith or unreasonably, and the court may then grant attorney and client costs at that level. And then if you hear to counsel, etc., it's giving you an indication just of how poorly the court viewed this particular thing. So an example of attorney and client costs would be if a plaintiff brings a defamation case against an individual and the defendant's legal team unreasonably prolongs the trial with unnecessary motions. The court may order the defendant to pay the plaintiff's attorney and client costs in addition to the party and party costs. So that just gives you an indication of how things are going. Then you've got what is known as the attorney and own client costs. And this is the most comprehensive costs order, allowing the successful party to recover all costs agreed upon with their attorney. It is rarely granted and usually only in exceptional circumstances where specifically provided for by agreement. So that just gives you an indication of costs and what the relevance is of those particular cost order. And by the way, this order is without prejudice to Part B of the application, which actually looks at whether the VAT Act is in and of itself constitutional, that the Minister of Finance, who is not a public representative, you're appointed by the president, but you're not elected, you're not parliament, you're not elected directly to that particular role. So the argument being made by the economic freedom fighters, the Democratic Alliance, is that those powers actually should not even be in the finance minister's hands, right? So where are we right now? Where do things stand right now? Some thoughts from my end. Number one, this is a strong lesson for Parliament and committee chairs. And the lesson is that they actually have to follow the procedures and allow committee work to be done in good faith and in the spirit of the law. Very often, legitimate complaints are raised and committee chairpersons are just trying to push through what their party leaders have asked for. We've seen it sometimes happening even in the National Assembly, where people are saying, no, I've asked a question, and then they're told, no, but you've been answered. And they're like, no, I haven't been answered. This person responded, meaning that they spoke after I asked the question, but they did not actually answer the question, which is to give direct input, which elucidates the query and provides me with the satisfaction that I'm looking for in closing my area of ambiguity, confusion, or omission. That is what a question is for. And you'll often see the speaker ruling, no, you've been answered, sit down, you're out of order, I'll kick you out, I'm going to get the sergeant at arms, etc., etc. Those kind of behaviors have happened often. Even with the Phala matter, there was a rush to get people to vote. Certain issues were raised that were not necessarily followed. So I think this in and of itself is a strong lesson, a strong reminder to the speaker and committee chairpersons that you have to listen to opposition members, even if they are from a small party, 9%, 12%, 14%, whatever, even if it's 1%, If that point is valid, you have to listen to it and you actually have to rule in their favor. Otherwise, this can happen. So I think that this is something that is necessary. It's a reminder. I remember Sinawo Tambo was complaining at a certain point, saying, hey, we can't do this in the committee. We can't do this other thing. And the committee chairperson was just pushing through. No, Baba, we have to take this to National Assembly tomorrow. And this is what led to all of the flurry of emails being sent to the speaker at late hours. And then she responded during the day, the next day, but then came into the parliament and just said, no, guys, I've ruled. I've looked into it. I've been advised. We're fine. Clearly, they were not fine. Clearly, they were not fine. This is a major blow, number 2, for the Minister of Finance. Not only was the VAT issue a bad idea in and of itself, very politically unpopular, it's put the ANC in a corner, it's allowed the DA to have 2 months or so of really pushing back and getting large-scale support from the public, allowed the EFF also to show that they are more than just a protest party, a disruption party, a pay back the money, a Babagatutuzane party, but they are also a party that can participate in litigation and actually in elucidation of a political situation, a policy situation, policy formulation situation, and provide direction to a public that seeks to get that. So that was a mistake in and of itself. Now he has taken a major loss in the courts. So everything that was done during the week now has been cancelled out by this court decision. And even if you think about his affidavit, he was rather dismissive and arrogant. It's always been the plan to go along with that, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I think he's in trouble now. I really think he's in trouble because it's a major blow for him. The buck stops with him. It's not going to stop with the president. It's going to stop with him. They're going to put it on him. What is the saying? There's a saying, go big or go home, right? You go big, you win, or you go home if you lose all your money. And I think he did go big, and he may have to go home. And I'm saying this also because I saw something quite interesting from Peter Bruce, who is somebody who is a journalist or editor level type of columnist who has been very vocal in favor of President Ramaphosa over the years. And he was talking about how the president may appoint Songezo Zibi as the next Minister of Finance. Songezo Zibi currently is the leader of Rise Mzansi, and he's the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. So that was quite an interesting article coming on Sunday the 27th in Sunday Times, I thought. And I thought it was a sign that, the minister's days are over. They are now preparing the path for Songezo Zibi to actually take this over. So it may very well be that there will be a new Minister of Finance in the cabinet reshuffle that is likely to come at some point after this VAT fiasco is over. And this may be the end of the VAT fiasco in and of itself. It's a big win for the Economic Freedom Fighters and the Democratic Alliance. I don't like this thing that the DA is doing where they're trying to make it seem as if they were the only ones opposed to VAT. Yes, they were opposed to VAT, but so were the MK party. In their own way, they took it to the streets. They don't go to courts. They took it to the streets. They voted against it. ATM voted against it, but EFF went with the DA to the court. Ngwaitobi was in there arguing on behalf, Advocate Tembeka Ngwaitobi was in there arguing on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters. So you can't erase him. You can't erase his role. You can't erase the role and the participation of the EFF. That's just for the Helen Zillers and the John Steiners, and the way that they sometimes have this conversation. Fair is fair, and we have to be quite cognizant that both of the parties were considering all of their options. DA moved a little bit faster in terms of filing the legal paperwork. EFF joined them. They both deserve, I think, the credit for this particular win. Fair is fair. We have to be fair. Whether you like DA or you don't like them, whether you like EFF, don't like them, it is what it is. They were the parties that actually have achieved this victory. But for the 2%, I give it more to the Democratic Alliance because the Minister of Finance was pushing for 2%, 2 percentage point increase. The DA blocked that. And then we were all worried now, are we being cooked? Are they manufacturing consent? Is it now going to be, rather than the 2%, a 1% proposed for the next year? And then they came back with some kind of a 1% compromise. And now it's gone. VAT was going to be a bad idea. It was going to make life very expensive for people. It was going to slow down the South African economy. I think that's why even the other parties, Action SA, Build One South Africa, also said, hey, man, we don't support this thing. We supported the fiscal framework, but not necessarily the VAT issue. And they used it strategically to try to get closer, I think, to considerations if there's going to be a cabinet reshuffle. Him and Mashaba say that he's not interested in joining the GNU. He's happy to, see how his party operates based on being a strong opposition in parliament. So we've now seen that actually there are variations and combinations still available to the ANC outside of the DA. But as I was saying, the final word and the final thought is that this is a big win for the EFF and the Democratic Alliance. It's a big win for them. But I want to give a special mention. I think the best communicator on this issue, the best politician speaking on this issue, has been Sinao Tambo from the Economic Freedom Fighters. I think that Sinao Tambo has done a good job. I've seen him do several interviews with the media on this particular topic. He's also participated on social media providing key information on this topic. And I think when it comes to social media work, talking to mainstream media, radio and TV, he was the best communicator from Parliament. So I think we have to give him also a special mention in this particular issue. And he's been one of the frontline voices in this, actually showing that, even though Floyd Shivambu is gone, the EFF is not suffering from a shortage of talent or people who can participate in Parliament at a high level. Even though Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is gone, they are not suffering from a shortage of talent who can participate at the highest level. So I think that's something that we value and something that has been good. And I want to encourage more members of Parliament to actually do this high quality of work. Show us that you know the information. Show us that you understand the regulation. Show us that you understand the issues. Talk to the public. Be available and participate in the discourse. Try to make a case for why in the next election people should choose your organization over the other organization. Too many times we see politicians who are just sleepies, don't do the research, don't do the homework, and are not participating at a high level with a high level of information. So that was something that was valuable. Guys, what do you think about everything that's played out? Let's talk in the comment section. Till the next one.